Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Live at 4. It's Friday.
It's a frozen Friday.
It is a frozen Friday, and it's actually going to get worse as the week goes along.
Oh, yeah, this is nothing.
It's nothing.
Yeah.
So we'll get to the weather. In fact, that's our top news today. The bitter cold weather is going to dominate our lives for the next few days. The latest outlook and where homeless can find shelter.
Yeah, that's a serious issue with this weather settling in. As air traffic is affected by the government shutdown, President Trump agrees to a deal to reopen the government for 3 weeks.
And a defiant former advisor to President Trump is arrested for witness tampering and lying to Congress. Roger Stone says he'll fight the charges.
Let's take a look outside today. Cloudy and cold today, but boy, things are really going to go downhill from here.
That's good. I was trying to get some fish. You're going to have to dig a little deeper as we go along. It wasn't, I'm not going to say it was nice out, but I left the dogs out at noon. It wasn't that bad because the wind had died down.
Let's see how you feel next week. Yeah.
Only bitterly cold tonight. Dave Caulfield's in the backyard. Only because it's going to get worse.
Yeah, unfortunately, Mark and Susan, the only is in heavy sarcastic quotations right now because as we end to this weekend, it will remain bitterly cold, but unfortunately, it is nothing compared to what could be right around the corner as we head into next Tuesday through Thursday. Visible cloud track tried to show a couple of breaks in those clouds today. Not very successful. Mostly cloudy skies. A few flurries coming down right now on the backyard patio, but a lot of that snow has moved out. That was a little bit closer to Monroe and Janesville this afternoon. Downtown Madison on the Edgewater Skycam, as I mentioned, mostly cloudy skies. Temperatures, hey, look at that. We are above zero in Madison, 1 degree above zero, but above zero nonetheless. It is -2 in Juneau, 2 above in Boscobel, and 3 above in Prairie du Chien. But still, even though we don't have that much of a wind, when it is kicking, it feels like -12 still in Madison. We felt like well below zero all day in Madison. -14 is the wind chill in the Dells and -9 in Lone Rock. And those numbers are about to go way down as we head into next week. A live look in Madison at some flurries on the WISC-TV Skycam. Your forecast first, temperatures will dip once again below zero and be in the double digits below zero by the time we start off tomorrow morning. Now let's take a look at your first alert traffic update. Still showing an accident on I-39 northbound. This is south of Janesville, closer to Beloit and Rock County. That is the entry ramp from I-43 southbound. There is an accident there, so maybe a little bit of delays starting to show up there. Also, an incident just popping up on I-94 near Cottage Grove. But other than that, no major incidents or delays to talk about. On the Beltline, not looking too bad for a Friday afternoon. Traffic generally heading out at the posted speeds. University Avenue eastbound to Verona Road, 7 minutes, so that's looking good. Average speed of around 55 to 60 miles per hour. And as we head to some other routes in and around Madison, the Beltline to Janesville, 27 minutes southbound. So not looking bad at all. Average speed of around 65 miles per hour. And that is your first alert traffic update. We will talk more about the winter storm on the way to start next week and possibly some once-in-a-generation type cold on the way for next week.
I agree with you. Didn't feel too bad
Yeah,
today.
but it's gonna,
Dave,
yeah.
I don't think you'll be on the patio
No,
very
probably
much.
not much
Not next week, for
I hope
sure.
not.
All right, Dave, come on in. We'll see you in a few minutes.
Thank you, Dave. First at 4, it is dangerous to stay outside for long periods of time with temperatures below zero.
Our Rose Schmidt is here to tell us where you can go throughout the weekend and next if you need to stay warm. Rose?
Yes, well, there are several agencies open for extra hours or making special accommodations to help out during this bitterly cold weather. First United Methodist Church opened a warming center at 8 this morning for families and single women. It closes in about a half an hour. Beacon Homeless Day Resource Center bused people there this morning after the Salvation Army closed. Church staff called it organized chaos as volunteers offered games, clothing donations, and meals throughout the afternoon. They were prepared for 120 people at any time.
We have one person who's taking a nap in our sanctuary. He's dealing with cancer. And so just having a place where she can take a nap all day. Other people, they're just saying it's comfortable even if they have to sleep on the floor. It's much more comfortable than where they do stay when they're out on the streets.
And Madison libraries are open to the public for various hours throughout the week. This weekend, Madison Metro bus transfer stations are offering warming buses. There are 4 of those locations spread throughout the city. The Beacon will open at 7:30 a.m. during this cold weather and close daily at 5. And for the next 2 months, Porch Light will be taking people into the men's shelter at 5 o'clock instead of the usual 5:30 p.m. So trying to minimize that time that they're out in the cold.
Got to be careful out there and find someplace warm, indeed. Rose Schmidt, thank you.
Thank you, Rose. President Trump has reached a tentative deal with Congress to end the partial government shutdown for 3 weeks. The plan provides a window for border negotiations to continue and allows thousands of federal workers to get paid. Mola Lenghi has the latest from the White House.
President Trump endorsed a short-term plan to reopen the government until February 15th.
I will make sure that all employees receive their back pay very quickly.
Today's tentative agreement does not contain money for the president's long-sought border wall.
This is an opportunity for all parties to work together.
The president says he could still declare a national emergency if Democrats don't come to the table.
If we don't get a fair deal from Congress, the government will either shut down on February 15th again, or I will use the powers afforded to me under the laws and the Constitution of the United States to address this emergency.
The president, along with lawmakers on both sides, came under increased pressure to reach a deal as the effects of the shutdown rippled across the nation. On Friday, multiple airports experienced delays due to a shortage of air traffic controllers.
Our airports will get back on track. We'll resume maintenance of our cherished national parks, and the IRS can issue tax refunds in a timely manner.
The president has asked Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell to bring the plan to the floor immediately for a vote.
With cooperation, we can pass legislation opening the government and send the DHS appropriations bill to a conference with the House today.
About 800,000 government workers have gone without pay for more than a month. Mola Lenghi, CBS News, the White House.
President Trump had delayed his scheduled State of the Union address until after the partial government shutdown is over. The government shutdown hit some travelers today.
Flights into LaGuardia in New York, one of America's busiest airports, were halted because of staffing issues. And Keely Arthur shares how it sent ripple effects all the way down to the Dane County Regional Airport.
That's right. A White House official says airport delays played a key role in President Trump's decision to temporarily end the government shutdown. Major airports, including Philadelphia, Newark, LaGuardia, and Atlanta, suffered delays Friday morning after federal workers called in sick amid the government shutdown, setting off a chain of departure delays at Dane County Regional. We caught up with one delayed passenger who was frustrated with the entire situation.
People should not be suffering for this. And I'm not talking about myself even on a plane. I'm talking about these people that can't feed their kids.
Anyone with flights out of Dane to O'Hare, Atlanta, Orlando, LaGuardia, Philadelphia, and Newark may have been impacted. Of course, the shutdown has been temporarily ended. As of about 10 minutes ago, 2 flights out of Dane County Regional, Washington, D.C. and LaGuardia were still delayed, but I think things are kind of slowly getting back on track.
Yeah, let's hope so. All right, thanks, Keely.
Well, longtime advisor to President Trump, Roger Stone, says he will fight federal charges stemming from special counsel Robert Mueller's investigation.
I will plead not guilty to these charges. I will defeat them in court.
FBI agents showed up at Stone's Fort Lauderdale home early this morning to take him into custody. Stone has been indicted on 1 count of obstruction of an official's proceedings, 5 counts of false statements, and 1 count of witness tampering.
I would have been more than willing to surrender voluntarily. They terrorized my wife, my dogs.
Stone says the charges have nothing to do with collaboration with WikiLeaks, but court documents allege a senior Trump campaign official was directed to contact Stone about any individual releases and what other damaging information organizations had regarding the Clinton campaign. Those documents also accused Stone of pressuring another witness to lie to investigators. Stone was released on $250,000 bond.
More than 200 people are missing after a dam at a mining site broke in southeastern Brazil. The dam ruptured this afternoon, spilling murky water filled with mining waste into an area where employees were working and a neighborhood where they lived. The accident comes just 3 years after another dam burst 75 miles away that killed 19 people and caused one of the worst environmental disasters in Brazil's history.
When we come back, we go backstage with our Michael Bruno.
Michael will check out the new production from Are We Delicious? A Serpent's Tooth, the King Lear musical. That's when Live at 4 continues.
Welcome back. They haven't arrived in Madison as of yet, but if you've been to bigger cities, especially on the West Coast, you may have seen those popular electric scooters zipping around.
But now new research shows e-scooters are sending many people to the emergency room with serious injuries. The scooters have become a popular way to get around in many cities. Research shows 1 in 3 people involved in e-scooter accidents are injured badly enough to require emergency room treatment.
Range of different fractures, the wrist and forearm, as well as the ankles. There were a lot of patients who came in with head injuries. Fortunately, for the most part, a majority of them suffered minor concussions, but 5 patients did have bleeding inside the brain.
The scooters are currently illegal in Wisconsin, but should that change, the city of Madison is preparing an ordinance that calls for a pilot study first. Scooter company Bird says it's committed to working with cities to safely and responsibly embrace e-scooters. Another company, Lime, says it has several LED safety initiatives, including distributing tens of thousands of free helmets to e-scooter riders.
Wall Street ended the week on a positive note on the news of the Washington shutdown deal. The Dow Industrials added 183 points, ending the week at 24,737. The NASDAQ Composite Index gained 91. S&P 500 was up 22. The Madison Theater Ensemble, Are We Delicious?, is best known for creating and bringing brand new theatrical productions to life in just 7 days.
Their latest project is called A Serpent's Tooth, the King Lear musical. Our Michael Bruno goes backstage to check it out.
So this is an adaptation of Shakespeare's King Lear, the tragedy of King Lear and his daughters. And we have paired that with the music of the Smiths and the Cure, or original music inspired by those two bands. And with that, we've brought in dancers from Canopy Dance. So we have theater, music, and dance all together.
So now what's the concept of Are We Delicious, and how does this particular brand of bringing this all together fit in with Are We Delicious?
Well, in every Are We Delicious, everyone writes and everyone acts. So the performers you see on stage are also the authors of the play. The composers that you see in the band, they've also written the play, and the dancers have choreographed it. So it's an ensemble experience, and we do it all in 1 week. So we start with a blank piece of paper, a week before opening night, and we write the songs, we write all the stage directions, and do all the dance and rehearse it and memorize it all in 7 days.
What says our second daughter, our beloved Regan? Speak.
Tony and I have been planning this show for, frankly, a couple years. I am obsessed with, music in general, but the music of the 80s in particular, and specifically the Smiths and the Cure. Johnny Marr and Robert Smith are two of the reasons I play guitar, so I always thought it would be neat to do a show, but I'm a songwriter in my real life. I thought it would be neat to do a show based on original music inspired by those two bands. Tony suggested marrying that with King Lear, which is, kind of dark, much like some of the Smiths and the Cure's music. So we thought it seemed like an interesting match. We bandied it back and forth for several months, and it took hold, and we decided to give it a shot, and lo and behold, it's been really fruitful.
Keep thee from this forever. Away! And void my sight.
All four of us wrote our own songs. A couple of us wrote 3, but most of us wrote 2. We had come up with the conceit that the show would be set in a family in the 1980s, listening to this sort of music so it would be germane. But they're living the story of King Lear basically inside their father's head. He's experiencing their real life as that reality. So the songwriters sort of had a structure in which to work that Tony and I had crafted like a skeleton, and then everyone else filled in the organs and the skin. And everyone wrote their own tune as they wished, given a scene where certain things had to happen in that scene. The actors who were the writers wrote the book, collaborated with the singer, bandmates, band members, who also then composed the music. And there was a lot of interplay between the two for each scene. And of course, the Canopy dancers each choreographed one very large dance for one scene, and then usually a couple of smaller things for other scenes as well.
Do not lie when I say I love you, but God, do I despise your ways as a maid. You won't listen to aching eyes, and please, you won't listen to the lies of me.
It's all done in 7 days.
It's a musical.
You wouldn't think King Lear as a musical.
It's a stretch, but they do it. It's just the wonderful thing about Are We Delicious? They take things out of the atmosphere and they create these amazing, amazing things in a week. They
that's
take
incredible.
these projects and they do everything in a week.
Costumes and everything.
Everything. It really, all of it. They did do the music a little bit earlier, as Sean said. They had this idea to take the '80s music from the Clash and the Cure and kind of blend it into
the Smith and the Cure.
Smith and the Cure. Sorry, Clash, Cure, Smith, Cure. You know, all those 80s bands that you and I were in way back in the day, Mark.
Yes.
And they
were never in boy bands.
I know. And they put this all together. They have a week to rehearse it and a week to put it on. And tonight's their opening night.
And a collaboration with Canopy Dance,
yes,
too.
and it is a big collaborative effort at the Bartell Theater.
Members of EO5.
Yes, it is. It really is. It's amazing. It's an amazing group of people. Yeah.
All right, it is the Serpent's Tooth, the King Lear musical at the Bartell. Tonight through Saturday, February 2nd. Go to bartelltheatre.com. And next week?
Next week, it'll be Crass Theater's Mythical Creatures, a series of one acts downstairs at the Bartell.
Oh.
Busy place.
Yes, busy place.
All right, stay warm.
I'm trying.
Have a good
We'll see you
weekend.
next
Thanks,
week.
Michael.
We'll be right back. Take a look at this. Crazy video from Kansas City shows a mail truck explode into a ball of fire. Resident Brian Riley says the truck appeared to be stuck on an icy hill, spinning its wheels. Moments later, this happened. The truck burst into flames and rolled down the street. It came to rest in a neighbor's yard, where firefighters responded and put out the blaze. The Postal Service spokesman said the driver's okay. The incident under investigation. Yeah, the check's in the mail.
That is, yeah.
Boy, thank goodness the driver wasn't hurt.
What happened? Who knows? He was
Yeah.
spinning the tires and. But yeah, it's like he's okay.
Crazy stuff there.
That'll melt the ice off the.
Yeah,
off the
that's
road.
one way to do it, I guess.
flamethrower.
How are you holding up? You're like
right now,
a little stunned about
I have
the
a little
weather.
bit of deer in the headlights look, and there's a reason for that, and it's what's coming up over the next 5 to 7 days or so when it comes to some winter storms on the way, or a winter storm, and then some historic, possibly cold as we get into next week. More on that in your First Alert forecast in just a few minutes. Good afternoon. I hope you had a really nice Friday. Hopefully you stayed warm on this Friday with wind chills this morning of about -25 to -30, and the bitterly cold weekend will continue across southern Wisconsin. Here are weather headlines, and there are a bunch of them. We also do have to worry about and watch a winter storm late Sunday into early Tuesday across southern Wisconsin, which could bring 6 or more inches of snow to portions of the area. And then after that, if that's not enough, once in a generation cold is possible by the time we get to the middle of next week. So this type of cold comes our way maybe once every 20 to 25 years. So we'll definitely be talking about it if it does end up verifying for quite some time in the future. So all of that coming up in this forecast. Wind chills right now at -12 in Madison, -9 in Lone Rock. It does feel above 0 right now in spots like Mineral Point, Boscobel, and Prairie du Chien, but not by much. So we do have alert days in the forecast basically for all of the work week next week. For Monday, that's when we're talking about possibly heavy snow and blowing and drifting snow as well. 5 to 10 inches of accumulation looking likely for southern Wisconsin at this point. And then next Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, just absolutely dangerously cold. temperatures and wind chills. Lows to minus 25, wind chills to minus 55. And honestly, folks, we are being a little bit conservative with that number. There are some forecast models out there, and you may have seen this by now, that take that number even lower. So we're staying a little bit optimistic on that side right now, but we need to prepare for the worst. And here are frostbite times when we talk about these wind chills, because it's hard when meteorologists throw all these numbers at you. What do they actually mean? Well, when we talk about wind chills of about minus 40, that gets you frostbite on exposed skin in about 10 minutes. When we start talking about minus 50 to minus 55, which is possible on Wednesday, that is frostbite on exposed skin in a matter of minutes, 5 minutes to be exact. And if we get lower numbers, the time gets less and less. So we need to worry about frostbite. We also need to worry about hypothermia, especially in elderly folks over the next week or so. So watch out for these signs: uncontrollable shivering, drowsiness or exhaustion, memory loss, disorientation, slurred speech. And remember, seek medical care immediately if a person's temperature falls below 95 degrees. And it's not just the cold. We also have to keep an eye out for the snow. We did see a little bit of flurry activity south of Madison generally today, but that has pushed out. Maybe a few snowflakes still left over in spots, but nothing significant. Downtown Madison, the Edgewater Skycam, today's high 1 degree. Normal is 27, so we're running about 25 to 30 degrees below where we should be for this time of year. Tonight, lows once again dropping double digits below zero. For tomorrow, we'll be at 8 for the highs, so a little bit of a warm up, if you will, but bitterly cold still with a few flurries possible. So that snow, at least the significant snow, arriving late Sunday for all of Monday and getting out of here late on Monday into early Tuesday. That could provide about 5 to 10 inches of snow to southern Wisconsin. And here is really the very big headline as we head into the next couple of days. It still feels bitterly cold, a little bit better as we head into Monday, but bitterly cold this weekend. Monday, because of the snow, it does feel not too bad outside, but once you start getting into these numbers, folks, where our map here is run out of colors, it doesn't have anywhere else to go. When we start talking about wind chills of minus 55, even close to minus 60, not out of the question, that's frostbite in about 2 or 3 minutes on exposed skin. So we really, really need to take every precaution possible as we head into next week. This could be a cold snap, especially as we head into Wednesday morning, Thursday morning, that we could be talking about for quite some time. Then luckily, those temperatures do get back into the double digits by the time we get into the start of February and by the time we get to next weekend. But just really almost unimaginable cold is possible as we get into next week.
Yeah, it's going to be deadly.
Yeah, unfortunately. So we really need to take all precautions.
Oh, you have to be so careful with pets, too.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah. You cat people are lucky.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Dave. Our weather team will keep us up to date on the cold and snow Saturday and Sunday morning here on News 3.
And then on Sunday morning, stay tuned for Jane Pauley. Well, this Sunday is a very special edition of Sunday Morning. The show is celebrating 40 years on television, and Lee Cowan is here to tell us what we have to look forward to. 40 years, Lee, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, Mark, thanks. It is a bit of a celebration this Sunday. We first went on the air back on January 28th of 1979, and somehow we've weathered the last 4 decades of changes, while at the same time trying to catch up with all those changes and not change the show itself. It was the idea, of course, of veteran newsman Charles Kuralt, who 40 years ago described what he hoped the show was going to be.
Good morning. Here begins something new. I'm Charles Kuralt, and this is Sunday Morning. We dreamed up a program about music and art and nature. Because of its necessary preoccupation with politics and wars and calamities, television journalism doesn't get around to those gentler subjects very often.
So, Mark, this is going to be a little bit of a look back. We're going to have snippets of some of the stories that we're the most proud of, everything from celebrities to entertainers to musicians to politicians to big newsmakers, regular folks, all the people that we've talked to over the last 40 years. It's a walk down memory lane for us, and we hope it will be for you, too.
It sounds exciting. And what's your piece this week?
I had the task of trying to sum up all the different places that this broadcast has taken me over the last 40 years, some of them exotic, some of them more mundane, and the ways that we got to some of those places, which it turns out is in all manner of ways. Take a look.
We've soared above stadiums in the Goodyear blimp and hovered over cities with a photographer who preferred his helicopter have no doors.
What's it like when you're literally leaning out over the edge of the chopper? You forget about it after a while.
We've rolled on the rails of the Maharaja's Express as it chugged through northern India. And we've taken the wheel in vehicles ourselves.
Handles like a dream.
Of every shape and size.
We could do a whole show on all the places that Bill Geist have taken us over the last 40 years. I'm often told, Mark, this is one of the best jobs in TV, and I'd have to agree. And this Sunday is just a reminder to all of us of just how much fun we have doing it.
Yeah, it looks like a blast. We can't wait to see it. Sunday morning, 8 o'clock. Lee, thank you very much for your time.
It looks like a great show.
Yeah, 1979. I was working doing this show, I think. When we come back, we're going to head to the movies.
We'll have a preview of the new biopic, Stan and Ollie, the story of Stan Laurel and Oliver Hardy, when Live at 4 continues. Yeah, that is a Frozen picture downtown. Frozen Friday, as we said at the top of the show. A movie opening this weekend brings one of the funniest duos in film history back to the big screen.
David Daniel has a preview of Stan and Ollie.
Steve Coogan and John C. Reilly are Laurel and Hardy in Stan and Ollie, which focuses on the legendary comedy team's theatrical tour late in their careers.
How do you feel about the size of the audiences? I've been a little disappointed.
The pressure was on because everyone knows what to expect from them as performers, but it was also helpful that we had so many things to look at to teach ourselves how to be them.
Yeah, when you know what you have to do, and it's all that, it's like, well, it's not like a blank canvas. It's like it's those guys. You've got to capture those guys. You've got to do it well.
I am lonesome for you.
3 precious weeks of rehearsal time helped, as did extensive makeup and prosthetics from Oscar winner Mark Coulier.
The first time we watched them on stage was just like watching Laurel and Hardy. I think it was the hospital sketch that they did. As a massive Laurel and Hardy fan, it was really like sitting in the theatre and watching Laurel and Hardy perform.
I loved us. You loved Laurel and Hardy, but you never loved me.
We were just trying to capture the men themselves and their relationship and what they were like backstage. So a little more creative license there and a little more room to move.
You're not leaving, are you, Stan? The show must go on.
In Hollywood, I'm David Daniel.
I loved Laurel and Hardy when I was growing up.
It is amazing how much they look like them, isn't it?
We had some 8mm films, Laurel and Hardy, that I used to.
Oh, you're kidding.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we'll have to go see that. It looks really good.
It looks great. All right, when we come back, Charles Franklin is here. He has the latest results of his Marquette Law School poll. There he is. We'll be right back.
Good afternoon. Here is your Friday First Alert traffic update. Taking a live look across Dane County on our traffic map. No major accidents or incidents popping up there, which is good news, but we're starting to see a little bit more in the way of delays on the eastbound Beltline, as you might expect Friday at around this time. Average speeds eastbound are about 20 to 30 miles per hour. So let's take a look at your drive times. A little bit slower eastbound Verona Road to John Nolan Drive, 10 minutes, average speed of around 25 miles per hour. And in the other direction, westbound, not looking too bad right now. Verona Road to University Ave, that's 7 minutes with an average speed of around 60 miles per hour. And that's your First Alert traffic update.
There's some good news at least there. One of the toughest dog sled races in Europe got underway in the Czech Republic today amid severe winter conditions. Some 100 mushers and 700 dogs from 8 countries are competing in deep snow and deep freeze conditions in the mountains between the Czech Republic and Poland. Organizers say the last time conditions were this severe back in 2004. Now, 3 years ago, the race had to be cut short because it was too warm.
That video looks like it could be Verona.
This is the backyard. Here's Raymond Road. It's winter everywhere. Well, a new Marquette Law School poll was released yesterday.
It asked a wide variety of questions, from Governor Tony Evers' agenda to medical marijuana to the shutdown and President Trump's job performance. The director of the Marquette Law School poll, Charles Franklin, is back with us. Hi, Charles. Good to see you.
Good to be here.
Wide-ranging poll.
Yeah, you covered a lot of ground.
A lot of stuff, a lot of things happening right now in the state.
Let's start with Governor Evers' priorities and what the people you polled said about that.
Sure. So we see a variety of things. Some are very strongly in Evers' favor, some are not. So on the withdrawal from the Affordable Care Act lawsuit, 48% favor withdrawing, but 42% don't want to continue the suit. So that's pretty evenly divided. And the partisans are just as split as they can be. 75% of Republicans stay in the suit, 81% of Democrats pull out.
So nothing's changed there.
So nothing's changed. But that's the sort of classic thing. Of course, ACA has been a huge issue since forever, right?
Oh, yeah.
But when we ask about expanding Medicaid, which is part of ACA, we get a big majority, over 60%, want to do that. And even among Republicans, it's evenly divided, 44 in favor of the expansion, 42 opposed. And Democrats and independents are much more positive about it. So there's a case where there's a big majority also in the broad health care policy arena, but a lopsided margin and not nearly as much partisan polarization as we see in the lawsuit question.
How about medical marijuana?
That one's popular these days. 59% support it, and that's up a good deal. When we asked about it in 2014, it was 51% opposed, but now 59% in favor. And it doesn't seem to matter how we ask the question. If we add "and regulated like alcohol," we get almost exactly the same answer. And that's different from the past. So this is an issue that in national polling has seen a real rise in support over the last 10 or 15 years. Here in the state, it's maybe been a little slower to rise, but we really see the rise over the last 3 or 4 years since 2014.
Well, 35 states, I think, have it now.
And this was the same question in national polls.
That's right. This 59% for us is exactly the question that Gallup asked nationally.
And minimum wage?
Minimum wage is pretty popular. People support an increase. And in our question, we say, would you support increasing the minimum wage to make it easier on low-income workers? And other people argue that it would hurt employment. And so we try to balance the good and the bad in the minimum wage argument. But we get a pretty solid 55% that support an increase. And that, again, is in line with when we've asked it in the past. So the fact that we've asked it in the past and a majority has supported it, but it hasn't changed, is a good example that public opinion alone doesn't change or create legislation. These things are influenced by different matters, but public opinion is part of the legislative environment, and it's especially part of the next election's environment. And so in that, I think, is the relevance here.
So overall, people are sort of supportive of the new governor for now.
Mostly. Actually, increasing spending for highways is the difficult one. A majority oppose tax increases on gas and registration fees for roads, and that's been that way since we've been asking the question for quite a while. That'll be a heavy lift for the governor and in the assembly, where there's been support for some changes too.
Let's talk about today's headline. Are you surprised by Trump's turnaround? It appears to be a turnaround.
It certainly seems to be, and it's one of those things where the pressure has been building. In our data, only 29% support the shutdown, 66% oppose it, and yet 44% support the wall. So that shows you the gap between 44 and 29, that there are a lot of wall supporters that were also opposed to the shutdown. So it wasn't just the complete Trump coalition behind the shutdown. I think when you saw flight interruptions at LaGuardia today, that seemed to me to be an important moment because we haven't seen that sort of disruptive effect of the shutdown. And then, of course, yesterday in the Senate vote, 6 Republicans crossed over to vote for the Democratic proposal. Wasn't enough to pass it, but it certainly showed the pressure within the Republican Senate caucus to begin to break with the president.
And we have 3 more weeks to get this sorted out before...
Then we can do it again.
Do it again. All right, Charles, thank you. You've had a busy week. Enjoy your weekend.
I'm going home to nap a little bit. Thank
Stay
you much.
warm.
Don't
Good
blame
to see you.
We'll be right back with a final check your forecast. You enjoyed the balmy conditions. It's
Temperatures
still
are
one.
above zero
There you go.
in Madison. Just put that smile on. It might freeze that way.
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
So you could have that attitude. It is 0 in Monroe, -1 in Watertown, -4 in Juneau. You factor in a little bit of a wind chill, which won't be that bad comparatively tonight. It still feels like -12 though in Madison. So wind chills will stay below 0 overnight, and temperatures will stay below 0 as we head into the overnight hours, bottoming out in the double digits below 0, and tomorrow highs will be in the upper single digits. That snow arrives late on Sunday.
Get your errands done tomorrow.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, Dave. Monday here on Live Before, Dr. Zorba Pastor will be along, and he'll be taking your medical questions live.
And our film critic Will Loper will tell us what he thinks of the new thriller Serenity, starring Matthew McConaughey and Anne Hathaway. That's coming up Monday on Live at 4. Well, Lola and Louie haven't been able to spend too much time
No, they
outside
have not.
these days, have they? But they've been very busy reporting for this week's Lowdown.
Which is good news for us. Here are the top animal stories of the week in Lola and Louie's Lowdown. This week on the Lowdown, a brand spanking new zoo baby.
A watchdog, just watch it.
And Romeo finally has a date.
But first, this is cuteness times 7. The Metro Richland Zoo recently welcomed 7 new cheetah cubs. A second-time mother gave birth to septuplets in November. The father is a first-time dad who was actually born and raised in the same zoo. The 7 cubs are in great health, and this is a special birth because they're a big boost to the captive cheetah population. In the wild, the cheetah is Africa's most endangered cat, with only 7,000 remaining.
This is cool video. The Denver Zoo released a sped-up video clip showing a kimono dragon hatching. Kimono hatchings vary in length. They can take a few hours or a couple of days. Baby dragons are 18 inches long when first hatched, but as adults can grow to be 10 feet long and weigh 175 pounds. Kimono dragons are listed as vulnerable by the International Union for Conservation of Nature.
The world's loneliest frog, Romeo, may have found his Juliet in Bolivia. The endangered male Sahuencis water frog has been the only one of its kind in captivity for more than a decade, until now. An online dating campaign for Romeo raised enough money